I will never forget the smell of that afternoon. It was late September, the kind of day where the sun is still warm, but the air has that sharp bite that tells you winter is coming. I had just finished a 9-hour shift at the dental office where I work as a receptionist, and my feet were throbbing inside my cheap flats. The last patient had been a 7-year-old boy who screamed for 45 minutes straight, and my boss, Dr. Patterson, had snapped at me twice for forgetting to file insurance claims on time. I was tired. I was broke. And I had a younger sister named Vanessa, who was about to make all of that feel 10 times worse. Vanessa had been calling me for a week about her 30th birthday party. Not because she wanted me there, but because she wanted everyone to see that she had invited me. There is a difference, and I have always known the difference when it comes to Vanessa. She is 2 years younger than me, but in every way that matters to our family, she has always been older, wiser, more successful, more beautiful, more worthy of attention. I learned this lesson when we were children, and I have had it reinforced at every family dinner, every holiday gathering, and every birthday party for the past 30 years. The party was going to be held at a rented venue downtown, a glass-walled space that Vanessa had been posting about on Instagram for months. She called it her celebration of a new decade, and her journey into true self-actualization. What it actually was a chance for her to show off. Vanessa has always been good at showing off. She has 47,000 followers on Instagram, most of them bought from some website she found at 2 a.m, but she talks about them like they are her closest friends. She sells diet tea and planning courses, and a lifestyle brand that I am still not sure actually exists. But to my mother, Vanessa is a genius. To my father, she is a success story. And to me, she has always been a reminder of everything I am not. The night before the party, Vanessa called me while I was eating instant noodles in my tiny apartment. My apartment has 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen so small that I cannot open the oven and the refrigerator at the same time. I pay $800 a month for it, which is too much, but it is what I can afford. Vanessa lives in a luxury building downtown with a gym and a pool and a concierge who remembers her name. She pays almost $3,000 a month for that apartment, but she does not own it. No one in my family knows that except me, and at the time, I had not yet decided what to do with that information. "Clara, you're coming tomorrow, right?" Vanessa's voice was sweet on the phone. Too sweet. The kind of sweet that means she wants something. "Everyone has been asking about you. Mom will be so disappointed if you don't show up." There it was, the weapon. Disappointing Mom. Vanessa has been using that one since we were teenagers, and it has never stopped working. My mother is a good woman, I think. She is just tired. Tired of worrying about me. Tired of explaining to her friends why one daughter drives a broken car and wears the same dress to every family event. My mother loves me, but she is proud of Vanessa. There is a difference, and that difference lives in the way she looks at each of us. When she looks at Vanessa, her eyes light up. When she looks at me, her eyes get soft with pity. I have seen that look 1,000 times, and I have never gotten used to it. "Fine," I said into the phone. "I'll be there." "Great," Vanessa said, and then she hung up. No goodbye, no thank you. Just the click of a connection ending. I sat in my apartment for a long time after that call. The instant noodles got cold, and I did not care. I looked around at my life, the cracked mug I had been using for 3 years, the secondhand couch that sagged in the middle, the pile of unopened bills on the kitchen counter. My car was parked outside, a 2012 Honda Civic with fading paint and a cracked windshield, and a left mirror held on by duct tape. Real duct tape. The silver kind that catches the light in a way that makes strangers stare. That car had been with me for 8 years. It had 140,000 miles on it. The check engine light had been on for so long that I had stopped noticing it. But it started every morning. It got me to work. It got me home. It was not much, but it was mine. Vanessa drove a white Range Rover. She had posted photos of it from every angle, always with a caption about hard work and manifestation and believing in yourself. What she did not post was the lease agreement she had signed 2 years ago, or the late payment notices she had been hiding from everyone. I knew about those things because I had found them accidentally when Vanessa asked me to help her organize her paperwork during a fight with her boyfriend Derek. She had left the folder on her kitchen table, and I had opened it without thinking. I saw everything. The monthly payment of $892, the 36-month term, the 3 late payments in the past 12 months, the warning from the leasing company that said in bold red letters that her account was at risk of repossession. I had never said anything about it. That was my problem. I had spent my entire life not saying anything, not defending myself, not standing up. I let Vanessa mock me at every family dinner. I let her comment on my clothes and my job and my car and my life. I smiled and nodded and pretended it did not hurt. But it did hurt. It hurt every single time. The day of the party arrived faster than I wanted it to. I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes, staring at the same 5 dresses I had been rotating for years. I chose the navy one. It was the nicest thing I owned, a simple sheath dress I had bought 3 years ago for a friend's wedding. It still fit, mostly, though the fabric was starting to pill at the seams. I paired it with the only pair of heels that did not give me blisters, a cheap nude pump from a department store that had gone out of business. I put on the only lipstick I owned, a dusty rose shade that was probably expired. I brushed my hair until it shined. I looked in the mirror and told myself that I looked fine. Not beautiful, not stunning. Fine. Fine would have to be enough. My car was waiting for me outside. The paint on the hood had faded to a dull gray, and the duct tape on the mirror had started to peel at the edges. I got in and turned the key. The engine coughed and sputtered and then settled into its familiar rumble. The check engine light glowed orange on the dashboard, a constant companion I had long stopped worrying about. I pulled out of my parking spot and headed toward the venue, which was 45 minutes away on the highway. The drive was uncomfortable. The rattling sound that had been getting worse for weeks was now loud enough that I could hear it over the radio. I turned the volume up and tried not to think about what would happen if the car broke down on the side of the road. I had no money for a tow truck. I had no money for a repair. I had exactly $217 in my checking account until my next paycheck, and that money was already spoken for by rent and utilities and the minimum payment on my credit card. When I finally arrived at the venue, the parking lot was full of cars I could not afford. There was a black Mercedes, a silver BMW, and a white Range Rover that I recognized immediately. Vanessa's car, parked in the front row, right next to the handicapped spot she was not supposed to use, but always did. I found a spot in the back corner of the lot, as far from the entrance as possible. I turned off the engine, and the rattling stopped. The silence was almost peaceful. I sat there for a moment, gathering myself. Then I got out and walked toward the glass doors of the venue. The inside took my breath away, and not in a good way. It was beautiful, I will give Vanessa that. White flowers everywhere, crystal chandeliers hanging from a ceiling that must have been 20 feet high. A long table near the back held a cake that looked like it belonged in a magazine, 3 tiers of white frosting with gold leaf accents. Waiters in black vests circled the room with trays of champagne glasses that sparkled under the soft lighting. Everyone was there. My mother, wearing her best jewelry, the diamond earrings Vanessa had bought her for Christmas. My father, standing near the bar with a glass of whiskey in his hand. My aunts and uncles, the same ones who had been comparing me to Vanessa for my entire life. And Vanessa's friends, the influencers and wannabe influencers with their perfect hair and perfect teeth and perfect lives that were only perfect on Instagram. Vanessa saw me the moment I walked in. She was standing near the cake, wearing a gold dress that probably cost more than my rent. Her hair was styled in perfect waves that fell just below her shoulders. Her makeup looked airbrushed, the kind of flawless finish that takes an hour and $100 to achieve. Her diamond earrings caught the light every time she turned her head, sending tiny sparkles across the room. She smiled when she saw me, but it was not a happy smile. It was a performance smile. The smile of someone who wants to be seen being gracious. Clara, she shouted across the room. You made it. Every head turned toward me. I felt my face flush with heat as 30 pairs of eyes settled on my face, my dress, my shoes, my everything. I smiled and waved like a shy child at a school assembly, which is exactly how I have always felt around Vanessa and her friends. She walked toward me, her gold heels clicking on the marble floor, each click a countdown to something I could not name yet, but could feel coming. When she reached me, she put her hands on my shoulders and leaned in to kiss my cheek. Her body was stiff, reluctant. She smelled like expensive perfume, the kind with a French name and a price tag that would make me faint. You look nice, she said. Her eyes went from my face to my dress and back again. She said nice, the way someone says interesting, when they mean terrible. The pause before the word was just long enough to be insulting. I have learned to notice those pauses. Thank you, I said. Happy birthday, Vanessa. She hugged me then, a quick, hollow embrace. When she pulled back, she kept her hands on my shoulders, and she was looking past me, toward the glass windows, toward the parking lot. I knew what was coming before she opened her mouth, because I have known Vanessa my whole life, and I know the look she gets when she has found something to use against me. Is that your car? She asked. Her voice was not quiet. She wanted people to hear. She wanted an audience. I did not turn around. I already knew what she was looking at. My Honda, parked in the back corner of the lot, the duct tape on the mirror visible even from this distance, the faded paint, the cracked windshield, the whole sad picture of my life, framed by glass walls so everyone could see. Vanessa, let's just enjoy the party, I said quietly. My voice was calm, but my hands were shaking. I shoved them into the pockets of my dress so no one would notice. But she would not let it go. She never let anything go. That was one of the things that made her so good at what she did. She found the thing that hurt you, and she pressed on it again and again until you either broke or walked away. I had never walked away. I always stayed. I always took it. That was my pattern, and Vanessa knew it better than anyone. She turned to the nearest group of her friends, 3 women in expensive dresses who had been watching us with the kind of hungry interest that reality television producers dream about. Clara still drives that old Honda, Vanessa announced, loud enough that people at the other end of the room probably heard her. You know, the one with the tape on the mirror? 2 of the women laughed. Not loud laughs. The kind of small, mean laughs that people do when they want to seem better than someone else. The 3rd woman, the one standing closest to Vanessa, looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. Or maybe it was pity. I could not tell the difference anymore. I felt my chest get tight. The kind of tight that makes it hard to breathe, makes your ribs feel like they are closing in on your lungs. I have felt that feeling 1,000 times in Vanessa's presence. It never gets easier. You would think a person could build up a tolerance to humiliation, but you cannot. Each time is fresh. Each time cuts new skin. Vanessa, I said again. This time my voice was lower, almost a whisper. Please. But she was already turning away, already walking back toward her cake, her friends, her perfect party. She waved over her shoulder without looking back, a dismissive gesture that said more than words ever could. The conversation was over. I was dismissed. The party continued as if I had never arrived. I stood there for a long moment, frozen in the middle of the room. Then I walked to the corner and sat down on an empty chair near the wall. A waiter came by with champagne, and I took a glass even though I do not normally drink. I needed something to hold, something to do with my hands. The champagne was cold and dry, and it burned going down, but the burn felt good. It felt like something other than shame. I told myself it was fine. She was always like this. I was used to it. But I was not used to it, and I knew I was lying to myself. I had been lying to myself for years, telling myself that Vanessa's cruelty did not matter, that her words could not hurt me, that I was stronger than her mockery. But I was not stronger. I was just quieter. And quiet is not the same thing as strong. About 20 minutes later, my mother found me in the corner. She sat down in the chair next to mine and put her hand on my knee. Her hand was warm, soft, the hand of a woman who had never worked a job that required physical labor. My mother has always been beautiful, even now at 62, with her silver hair and the fine lines around her eyes. She looked at me the way she always looked at me, with that mixture of love and disappointment that had defined our relationship for as long as I could remember. "Clara, sweetheart," she said, "when are you going to do something with your life?" I blinked at her. The question was not new. She had been asking it in different forms for years. But tonight, sitting in the corner of my sister's birthday party, wearing my 3-year-old dress and nursing a glass of champagne I could not afford, the question hit differently. It landed like a punch to the stomach. "Mom, I have a job," I said. It was a weak defense, and I knew it even as I said it. "You have a job," my mother repeated slowly. She said the word job like it was something dirty. "Vanessa has a career, Clara, a career. She has a brand. She has sponsorships. She has people who work for her." "Mom, she sells diet tea on Instagram. The tea does not even work. A woman wrote a whole blog post about how it gave her diarrhea at a wedding." My mother's face hardened. "That is not the point. The point is that Vanessa is building something. She is an entrepreneur. And you, sweetheart, you are still answering phones at a dentist's office." I wanted to tell her that answering phones at a dentist's office was honest work, that I had never missed a day, that I had health insurance and a retirement account, small as it was, that I paid my taxes and my bills and I did not owe anyone money, that by most measures I was a responsible, functional adult. But I did not say any of those things because I knew they would not matter. In my mother's eyes, Vanessa could do no wrong, and I could do no right. That was the math of our family, and no amount of reasoning would change it. After my mother left to find my father, I sat alone for a while longer. I watched Vanessa move through the party like a queen, accepting compliments and posing for photos and kissing cheeks. Every few minutes, she would throw her head back and laugh at something someone said, and the laugh would echo off the glass walls and the marble floors. She looked happy. She looked like someone who had everything she had ever wanted. But I knew the truth. I knew about the lease. I knew about the late payments. I knew about the eviction notice that had been dismissed only because she paid 3 months of back rent at the last possible second. I knew that her business was not actually registered in her name anymore, that the LLC had been dissolved for non-payment of fees, that she was operating without any legal protection. I knew that her 47,000 followers were mostly bots, that her engagement rate was lower than my high school GPA, that she was losing money on every sponsored post she pretended to be so proud of. I knew all of this, and I had never said a word. But something changed that night. Sitting in that chair, watching my sister perform her perfect life for a room full of people who did not know the truth, something inside me shifted. It was not anger exactly. It was not even resentment. It was exhaustion. I was exhausted from being the quiet one, the one who took the hits and smiled and pretended everything was fine. I was tired of being the forgotten daughter, the one who drove the broken car and wore the old dress and lived the small life. I was tired of letting Vanessa stand on my back so she could feel tall. I decided in that moment that I was done. The party went on for another 2 hours. I stayed in my corner for most of it, talking to the few relatives who bothered to approach me. My Uncle Mark asked about my job, and I told him it was fine. My cousin Jessica asked if I was seeing anyone, and I told her I was not. My Aunt Patricia told me I looked tired, and I told her I was tired. None of these conversations went anywhere. None of them changed anything. But then, near the end of the night, Vanessa found me again. She had been drinking champagne for hours, and her perfect mask was starting to slip. Her words were slightly slurred, her movements slightly uncoordinated. She was holding a glass in one hand and her phone in the other, and she was not alone. Derek was with her, her boyfriend of 2 years, the one who drove the black Audi and worked in finance, and never quite looked me in the eye. "Clara, Derek wants to hear about your car," Vanessa said. She was smiling, that sharp, mean smile I had known since childhood. Derek looked confused. He was holding a glass of whiskey, and he kept looking between Vanessa and me like he was missing something important. "What about her car?" he asked. "The Honda," Vanessa said. "The one with the tape. Tell him about it, Clara." I stood up slowly. My legs felt shaky, but I made them hold me. "I need some air," I said. I started to walk toward the glass doors that led to the outdoor patio, but Vanessa stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "Come on, don't be so sensitive," she said. "It's just a car. It's not like you're married to it. It's not like it's a part of your identity or something." She laughed at her own joke. It was a loud, ugly laugh, nothing like the practiced ones she did for Instagram. Derek laughed too, after a moment. A nervous laugh. The kind of laugh that says, "I am only laughing because I am afraid of what will happen if I do not." I looked at Vanessa's face, really looked at her. And in that moment, I saw something I had never noticed before. Behind the expensive makeup and the perfect hair and the gold dress, she was scared. She was terrified. She had built her entire life on things that were not real, and she knew, on some level, that it could all fall apart at any moment. The cruelty was not confidence. It was armor. She was mean because she had to be. Because if she was not better than me, then what was she? I walked away without saying a word. I walked past Derek, past the cake, past my mother and father, and all the aunts and uncles and cousins and strangers. I walked through the glass doors and across the patio and into the parking lot. Behind me, I heard Vanessa's voice, loud and clear. "She's always been like this. So dramatic." I kept walking. The parking lot was quiet now. Most of the guests had left. The white Range Rover was still there, parked in the front row, gleaming under the streetlights. My Honda was in the back corner, small and tired and sad. I walked to my car and got in. I sat there for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel, my forehead resting against the worn vinyl. The rattling sound was gone. The engine was off. The silence was complete. And in that silence, I made a decision. I was done being the sister who lost. I was done being the forgotten daughter. I was done being the quiet one who took the hits and smiled and pretended everything was fine. I was going to show Vanessa what happened when you push someone too far. I was not going to be cruel. I was not going to be violent. But I was going to be smart. I was going to be patient. And I was going to win. The next morning, I woke up early. The sun was barely up, and my apartment was still dark. I made coffee in my cheap drip machine and sat down at my kitchen table with a notebook and a pen. I wrote down everything I knew about Vanessa. Her lease, her late payments, her dissolved LLC, her eviction notice, her fake followers, all of it. I wrote for an hour, filling page after page with facts and dates and numbers. Then I started making a plan. The first thing I did was stop spending money. No more takeout coffee, no more new clothes. No more subscriptions to streaming services I barely used. I packed my lunch every day, peanut butter sandwiches and an apple and a granola bar. I walked to the grocery store instead of driving. I turned off lights when I left a room. I took shorter showers. I canceled my gym membership and started running in the park instead. Every dollar I saved, I put into a separate bank account, one that Vanessa did not know about. I named the account Freedom. The second thing I did was pick up extra shifts at the dental office. Dr. Patterson was happy to give them to me because no one else wanted to work late or come in on weekends. I cleaned exam rooms. I organized the supply closet. I answered phones during lunch. I stayed after hours to file insurance claims. The work was boring and repetitive, but it paid time and a half, and the money added up faster than I expected. Within 2 months, I had saved almost $4,000. The third thing I did was research. I spent hours on the internet, learning everything I could about car leases and buyouts and repossessions. I learned that a leasing company has the right to terminate a lease if the lessee misses payments. I learned that the leasing company can then sell the car to recover their losses. I learned that sometimes, if you move quickly enough, you can buy the car yourself, directly from the leasing company, before it goes to auction. I learned that the person who originally leased the car does not have to agree to the sale. I learned that once the sale is complete, the car belongs to the new owner, and the original lessee has no legal claim to it. I learned all of this, and I realized that Vanessa's Range Rover was vulnerable. The lease had 7 months left, but the payment history was terrible. 3 late payments in the past year, 2 warnings from the leasing company. If I could find a way to buy that car out from under her, I could take away the thing she cared about most, the thing she posted about constantly, the thing that made her look successful when nothing else about her life was real. But I needed more information. I needed to know exactly which leasing company held the contract. I needed to know the payoff amount. I needed to know if they would even consider selling to someone who was not the original lessee. So I did something that scared me. I called Vanessa and I asked if I could come over to her apartment. She was surprised to hear from me. We had not spoken much since the birthday party, just a few awkward texts and one tense phone call with our mother on the line. But Vanessa was busy with her brand and her sponsorships, and she did not have time to wonder why I was suddenly interested in her company. She said yes without asking any questions. Her apartment was as beautiful as I remembered. White walls, white furniture, white flowers in a crystal vase. Everything looked expensive, but if you looked closely, you could see the signs that it was not. The sofa was starting to pill at the corners. The rug had a stain that had been scrubbed too many times. The art on the walls was cheap prints, not originals. Vanessa's life was a stage set, beautiful from far away, worn up close. I sat on her white sofa and accepted the glass of wine she offered me. We made small talk for a while. She told me about Derek. She told me about a new sponsorship she was negotiating. She told me about a trip she was planning to Mexico. I nodded and smiled and waited for my opportunity. It came when her phone rang. She got up to answer it, walking into the kitchen to take the call in private. She left her laptop open on the coffee table. I looked at the screen. Her email was open. Her leasing company had sent a message that morning, the subject line in bold red letters. Urgent. 3rd late payment notice. I memorized the name of the leasing company. I memorized the account number at the top of the email. I memorized the phone number in the signature. Then I looked away and pretended to be interested in the view from her window. When Vanessa came back, she was stressed about something. I did not ask what. I finished my wine and made an excuse to leave. She did not try to stop me. That night, I called the leasing company. I told them I was a potential buyer interested in purchasing a vehicle from their inventory. I asked if they had any vehicles nearing the end of their lease terms. The woman on the phone was helpful, maybe too helpful, and within 10 minutes, I had confirmed that Vanessa's Range Rover was eligible for early buyout. The remaining balance on the lease, including late fees and transfer costs, was just over $5,000. I had $4,000 saved. I needed one more $1,000, and I could buy my sister's car out from under her. I worked harder than I had ever worked in my life. I picked up every extra shift Dr. Patterson offered. I started babysitting on weekends for a family in my building, watching their 2 young children while they went to dinner or the movies or wherever it is that parents go when they need a break from their kids. I sold clothes I had not worn in years on an online marketplace. I sold books I would never read again. I sold a lamp that had belonged to my grandmother, which hurt more than I expected, but I told myself it was worth it. The freedom was worth it. After 3 more weeks, I had $5,300. I called Mr. Henderson, the owner of a small used car lot on the other side of town. I had found his name on a forum about car leases, buried in a thread where someone had asked about buying out a lease without the original lessee's permission. Several people had recommended him as someone who could handle complicated transactions. I called him, and he agreed to meet with me the next day. Mr. Henderson was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes and hands that were stained with grease. His office smelled like coffee and tires, which was not a good smell, but was an honest one. He listened to my story without interrupting, nodding occasionally, asking a question here and there. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and looked at me for a long time. "You want to buy your sister's car," he said. "The one she leased, the one she's laid on." "Yes," I said. "And you want to do this without telling her?" "Yes." He was quiet for another long moment. Then he said, "You know she's going to be furious." "I know. And you're sure you want to do this?" I thought about the birthday party. I thought about the duct tape on my mirror. I thought about my mother's pitying eyes and my father's disappointment and a lifetime of being the sister who lost. I thought about all of it, all the small cruelties and dismissive gestures and mean little laughs, and I said, "I have never been more sure of anything in my life." Mr. Henderson nodded. "All right then, let's get to work." The process took 2 weeks. The leasing company had to verify Vanessa's defaults. They had to agree to terminate her lease early. They had to approve me as a new buyer. I held my breath through every phone call, every email, every signature. I was terrified that something would go wrong, that Vanessa would find out, that the leasing company would change their mind, that I would lose the $5,000 I had worked so hard to save. But nothing went wrong. On a Tuesday afternoon, Mr. Henderson called me with the news I had been waiting for. "It's done," he said. "The car is yours. Come pick up the keys." I drove to his lot in my Honda. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The white Range Rover was parked in front of his office, gleaming in the afternoon sun. It looked different now. It was not Vanessa's car anymore. It was mine. Mr. Henderson handed me a folder. "Title, registration, keys, everything is in your name now." I opened the folder. I saw my name printed on the documents. Clara Mason, owner. I had to sit down. The world tilted slightly, and I grabbed the edge of his desk to steady myself. "One more thing," Mr. Henderson said. "The leasing company has to notify her. They'll send a letter saying her lease was terminated and the vehicle has been sold, certified mail. She should get it tomorrow." I nodded. I could not speak. My throat was too tight. That night, I did not sleep. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I had done. I had bought my sister's car. I had taken the things she used to make me feel small, and I had made it mine. It was not revenge, exactly. It was not cruelty. It was justice. Quiet, legal, undeniable justice. The next morning, I called Vanessa. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice groggy and annoyed. "Clara, it's 7 in the morning." "I know," I said. "I wanted to invite you to dinner. Just us, sisters." She was quiet for a moment. "Why?" "Because I miss you, and because I want to apologize for being so dramatic at your party." Another pause. Then, "Fine. When?" "Saturday night. There's a new Italian place downtown. I'll make a reservation." "Okay," she said, "but I'm picking the wine." "Of course you are," I said. I hung up and sat in the silence of my apartment. My heart was pounding again, but this time it was not fear. It was anticipation. The kind of anticipation you feel before something important happens. Something that will change everything. The next few days were strange. I went to work. I answered phones. I filed insurance claims. I smiled at patients. No one knew what I had done. No one knew that I, Clara Mason, the receptionist with the broken car and the old dress and the small life, now owned a white Range Rover. It was parked in Mr. Henderson's lot, waiting for me. I had not driven it yet. I wanted to wait. I wanted the first time to be meaningful. Saturday night arrived. I wore the same navy dress, the same cheap heels, the same dusty rose lipstick. But something was different. I was different. I could feel it in the way I held myself, the way I walked, the way I looked in the mirror and did not look away. I arrived at the restaurant early. I wanted to watch Vanessa walk in. The restaurant was nice, not as fancy as the party venue, but close. White tablecloths, candlelight, a waiter who pulled out my chair and called me madam. I ordered a glass of water and waited. Vanessa was 10 minutes late. That was 5 minutes early by her standards. She walked through the door like she owned the place, gold heels clicking on the hardwood floor, her hair perfect, her makeup perfect, her smile perfect. She was wearing a white blouse that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe and black pants that fit her like they had been sewn onto her body. She spotted me and walked over, her eyes scanning the room as she moved, cataloging who was there, who was watching, who might be impressed. Clara, she said, sitting down without waiting for me to greet her. You look rested. Thank you, I said. You look beautiful. I know, she said. She picked up the wine menu without looking at me. I'll order for us. The waiter came. Vanessa ordered a bottle that cost almost $200. She did not ask me if that was okay. She never asked. We made small talk while we waited for the wine. She told me about a new sponsorship she was negotiating with a skincare company. She told me about a trip she was planning to Mexico. She told me about a major opportunity that was too early to discuss, but was going to change everything. I nodded and smiled and waited. The wine came. Vanessa tasted it, swirled it, pronounced it acceptable. The waiter poured us each a glass and disappeared. I took a sip. It was good. It should have been good for $200. How is your car, Vanessa? I asked. She blinked. My Range Rover? It's fine. Why? No reason, I said. I just heard that leasing companies sometimes repossess cars when people miss payments. I was worried about you. Her face changed. Just for a second. A flicker of something. Fear. Panic. Then the mask went back up, smooth and perfect and impenetrable. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. I own my car. Oh, I said. I thought you leased it. Who told you that? I saw the documents, I said quietly. Public records. Vanessa put down her wine glass. Her hand was shaking a little, the tiniest tremor that she tried to hide by folding her hands in her lap. You've been spying on me? I've been learning about you, I said. There's a difference. We stared at each other across the table. The candle flickered between us. The restaurant hummed with the sound of other people's conversations, other people's lives. But in our corner, there was only silence and tension, and the weight of everything unsaid. What are you saying, Clara? Vanessa's voice was different now, lower, less confident. The mask was slipping. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder Mr. Henderson had given me. I placed it on the table between us, right next to the $200 bottle of wine. Your lease was terminated, I said. Your car was sold. You should have received a letter about it. Vanessa grabbed the folder before I could stop her. Her hands were shaking openly now. She opened it and started reading. Her eyes moved across the documents, fast at first, then slower. Then they stopped. This says your name, she whispered. Clara Mason, owner. Correct. You bought my car? I bought your lease, I said. The car is mine now. Vanessa looked up at me. Her eyes were wet, not sad, angry. The kind of angry that comes from being exposed, from having your secrets dragged into the light. You did this to embarrass me? I did this to show you something, I said. My voice was calm, quiet, steady. I had practiced this part in front of my bathroom mirror 20 times. You built your entire life on things you do not own. Your apartment, your car, your followers, your confidence. None of it is real. How dare you? I'm not finished, I said. You have spent our entire lives making me feel small, making me feel poor, making me feel worthless. And for what? So you could feel better about your own empty life? She opened her mouth, closed it. No words came out. I'm not your enemy, Vanessa, I said. I never was, but I am done being your target. She stood up so fast her chair almost fell over. People at nearby tables turned to look. The waiter took a step toward us, then stopped when he saw the expression on Vanessa's face. You think this is over, she said. Her voice was shaking. You think buying my car means you win? No, I said. I think this is the first time I've ever stood up for myself, and that means I already won. She grabbed her purse. She turned to leave. Then she stopped. The keys, she said. Give me my keys. You don't have keys anymore, I said. The car is in the parking lot, but it has my keys now. Vanessa stared at me for a long moment. Her chest was heaving. Her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. I thought she might scream. I thought she might cry. I thought she might pick up the wine bottle and throw it at my head.
but she did none of those things.
She turned and walked out of the restaurant, her gold heels clicking on the hardwood floor, each click a little softer than the last, until there was nothing but silence. I sat alone at the table for a long time. The wine was still there. The folder was still there. The empty chair where Vanessa had been sitting was still there. I finished my glass of wine. I ate a breadstick from the basket on the table. I paid the bill, all of it, even the $200 bottle Vanessa had ordered. Then I walked outside. The parking lot was almost empty. My Honda was in the corner, patient and loyal, waiting for me like a friend who never judges. And next to it, gleaming under the streetlights, was the white Range Rover. My Range Rover now. I walked over to it and put my hand on the hood. The metal was cool, solid, real. I stood there for a moment, just breathing, just feeling. Then I took the keys out of my pocket and unlocked the door. I got into the driver's seat. The leather was soft. The dashboard was clean. The car smelled new, even though it was 2 years old. I started the engine. It purred. No rattling, no coughing, just a smooth, quiet hum. I sat there for a long time. I did not drive anywhere. I just sat, holding the steering wheel, feeling the weight of what I had done. I had not done it to hurt Vanessa, not really. I had done it to prove something to myself, that I was not helpless, that I was not invisible, that I had power I had never used. The next few weeks were strange. Vanessa told our parents that I had stolen her car. My mother called me, angry and confused. "How could you do this to your sister?" she demanded. "After everything she has done for you." I did not argue. I did not defend myself. I just listened, and when she finished, I said, "Mom, I love you, but you do not know the whole story." She hung up on me. My father refused to speak to me for 10 days. He sent me a text message that said, "I am disappointed in you." That was all. 10 days later, he called and asked if I wanted to have lunch. I said yes. We met at a diner near his house, and he looked at me across the table with an expression I could not read. "Your sister is living with us now," he said. "I know," I said. "She says you ruined her life." "I did not ruin her life," I said. "I bought a car. That is all I did. Everything else that happened was already happening. The eviction, the business problems, the late payments. Those were not my fault." My father was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I did not know about those things." "I know," I said. "She did not want you to know." He reached across the table and put his hand over mine. His hand was old and wrinkled and warm. "I am sorry," he said, "for everything, for not seeing what was happening, for not protecting you." I squeezed his hand. "It is okay," I said. And in that moment, it was. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Vanessa stayed with our parents for 6 months. She told everyone it was temporary, just until she got back on her feet. But she never got back on her feet. Her business continued to fail. Her followers continued to drop. Her sponsorships continued to disappear. Derek broke up with her when he learned about the car and the lease and the lies. She stopped posting on Instagram. She stopped answering her phone. She became someone I did not recognize, someone small and scared and alone. I did not gloat. I did not rub it in. I did not drive my Range Rover past our parents' house to show her what she had lost. That was not who I wanted to be. I had spent my whole life being defined by Vanessa's cruelty, and I was not going to let her define me anymore. I was going to be better than that. I was going to be kind, not because she deserved kindness, but because I deserved to be kind. I started driving the Range Rover to work. My coworkers noticed. They asked questions. I gave simple answers. "It was a good deal," I said. "I saved up for it." I did not mention Vanessa. I did not mention the lease or the late payments or the dinner at the Italian restaurant. Some stories do not need to be told. Some victories are private. But I did not sell my Honda. I kept it parked behind my apartment building, covered with a tarp to protect it from the rain. That car had gotten me through hard times. It had never complained. It had never humiliated me. It had just kept going, Day after day, year after year, asking for nothing but gas and the occasional oil change. That was who I wanted to be. Not someone who pretended to be rich, not someone who tore others down to feel tall, just someone who kept going. 6 months after the dinner, my mother called me. She was crying. Vanessa had moved out of their house and into a small apartment on the other side of town. She had gotten a job as a cashier at a grocery store. She was not posting on Instagram anymore. She was not selling diet tea. She was just living, quietly and honestly, for the first time in her life. "Your father and I want to see you," my mother said. "For dinner, just the three of us." I went. We ate at a small restaurant near my apartment, the kind of place where the food is good and the prices are fair and no one cares what you are wearing. My mother asked about my job. My father asked about my car. We did not mention Vanessa. We did not mention the Range Rover, or the lease, or the lies. We just ate and talked and tried to remember how to be a family. It was not perfect. It will never be perfect. But it was a start. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did. If I could go back, would I do it again? And the answer is yes. But not for the reasons you might think. I did not buy that car to punish Vanessa. I bought it to prove to myself that I could, that I was not the forgotten daughter, that I was not the sister who lost, that I had power I had never used, strength I had never tested, courage I had never known I possessed. Vanessa and I do not talk much anymore. We see each other at holidays, and we are polite. We say hello and goodbye and ask about each other's lives. But we are not sisters, not really. The bond we had as children is gone, broken by years of cruelty and silence and lies. I do not know if it can be repaired. I do not know if I want it to be repaired. What I do know is that I am not afraid anymore. I am not invisible. I am not small. I drive a white Range Rover to work every morning, and sometimes I look at myself in the rearview mirror, and I do not recognize the woman looking back. She is stronger than I was, braver, more confident. She does not flinch when people stare. She does not apologize for taking up space. The best revenge, I have learned, is not loud. It is not public. It is not cruel. The best revenge is quiet. It is buying the car, or the house, or the business, or your freedom, and then driving away in silence, leaving behind the people who tried to keep you small. I still have the navy dress. I still have the cheap heels. I still have the dusty rose lipstick that is probably expired. But I do not need them anymore. I have new things now, new clothes, new confidence, new life. And when I look in the mirror, I do not see the forgotten daughter. I do not see the sister who lost. I see Clara Mason, the one who bought the car, the one who stood up for herself, the one who finally, after all these years, chose herself. If you are watching this, and you have someone in your life who makes you feel small, remember this story. You are not helpless. You are not invisible. You are not the person they say you are. You are stronger than you know, braver than you believe. And sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. Sometimes the best revenge is freedom. Quiet, unshakable, undeniable freedom. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gave you something. Hope, maybe. Or courage. Or just the knowledge that you are not alone. There are millions of us out there. The forgotten ones, the dismissed ones. The ones who have been told we are not enough. But we are enough. We have always been enough. And one day the people who tried to keep us small will look up and see us driving away. And they will know, finally, that they were wrong.